they're doing is to be able to identify what they're preparing and plan for it. Or, excuse me, identify what they're planning and prepare for it. Excuse me. So today, what we're going to be looking at is how evil emerges, evil's effects, and evil's end game in order to be able to identify an evil attack in our own lives. See, because once again, just like the chess master who is setting up his pieces, Satan works in our lives much the same way. He works in our lives to set things up so that in the long run we will fall away. And the best way to beat him at his own game is to understand these things, what's happening, and be able to prepare for what Satan is planning for us in the future. And so this is what I want to be looking at from this passage today. The first thing we're going to look at is how evil emerges. So verses 29 through 31, we're looking at how evil emerges. And it says, in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, the son of Omri, became king over Israel. And it talks about how evil Ahab is. He says, Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord more than all who were before him. So how long after David and Solomon would you guess that we are? 200 years? 300 years? How long after David and Solomon do you think? Just a little early. I thought some of you were really good at guessing. Would you believe it's only 56 years after Solomon? The wisest king who asked God for wisdom to lead his people, and God gave it to him. It's only 56 years after he died that we're looking at Ahab. The nation of Israel split after Solomon, as some of you may already know, into two nations. The northern 10 tribes of Israel and the southern 2 tribes of Judah and Benjamin called Judah. And that happened around 930 BC, for those of you who are geeks like me and like history. What we're looking at is about 874, so yeah, about 56 years. How many of us are over 56? You don't have to raise your hands. You don't have to. I see guys' hands going up immediately and ladies who are looking around and make sure that people are not looking at them. But if you're, say, 66, you would have been 10 when Solomon was king, and you'd be living at this time. And you'd see these things happening, and you wonder how things got this way. How did we get to where we are? And so we see just a few progressions of kings. We're here. And it's only been a couple of kings, the longest of which was Baasha, it was 24 years, and the northern 10 tribes of Israel. But somebody who was maybe 76 would have been 20 when Solomon was king, would have known what living under the reign of Solomon, a godly king, was like. And now to see all of this happen. And the funny thing about, actually it's not so funny, but the terrible thing about Israel is they never had a good king. All of their kings from the time that the nation split to the time it was destroyed by the Assyrians, all of them without exception were evil. How did things get so bad so fast? Well, I'll tell you one thing, it escalated quickly. But how do you think things get so bad so fast? What happens?
People become apathetic.
Apathy? We let our guard down? Turning away from God. See, here's the thing. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to ruin my relationship with God today. No one wakes up thinking that, but sometimes it happens. I'm sure David, when he was walking on his temple, or on his castle, he never thought, well, I'm going to ruin my relationship with God today. I'm going to have an immoral relationship, and that's going to be it with me, with my relationship with God for the next couple of years, and that's just how it's going to go. No, that wasn't how he woke up thinking. So how did he get there? Well, I can tell you it happens in a couple of small, slow steps. See, this next slide shows, actually, I took this picture of me actually originally to show off the awful, horrible tan line that I have from camp. But I found the picture and it shows something else about me. See, look at my hair in that picture. See, some of you have commented that my hair is longer, and I hope that you'll tolerate me for having a love for Halloween and wanting a good Halloween costume. But see, I haven't really noticed my hair growing. That's the thing, because see, it's with me all the time. I didn't notice that my hair was getting so long until I woke up one morning and it's, I closed my eyes and it was dark, and I opened my eyes and it was still dark because my hair was in front of my eyes. I didn't realize that it was getting so long. But when I look at this picture, I can see, wow, that's quite the change, isn't it? That's quite the change. But I didn't notice it. Why didn't I notice it? Because it was slow and gradual. See, Satan isn't an idiot, unfortunately. It would be much easier if he was. But Satan isn't a fool. He knows that we're smart enough to say no to things that are, of course, going to ruin our relationship with God. Everybody knows to avoid the van with free candy written on the side of it, but what we don't really always catch on to is the slow numbing, slow desensitization of what Satan is doing here. We see in verse 31, that it came to pass as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Jeroboam, if we go back to the timeline, he was the first king of Israel. He was the first one after the split. And what happened is he said, if the people go down to Jerusalem to worship the true God, they will see the glory of Jerusalem, and they will go back and turn their hearts back to Rehoboam, who was the king of Judah at that time, and they will kill me, and they will return to him, and I won't be king anymore, I'll be dead. And so he set up some golden calves at Dan and Bethel, and he said, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt, even though I just made them. And these are who you should worship, because it's too hard for you to go all the way down to Jerusalem. Why don't you can just stay here and worship these. And of course, we know that God says, don't do, that's dumb. Don't do that. And, it didn't work out so well for the last person who tried it with Moses or God. They were both kind of ticked off about that. But Jeroboam, and we see this over and over again with all of the kings. You can read through the book of Kings, and you see over and over and over again that he continued in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. He continued. And now, not only is he continuing, it's trivial for him. It became a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. Why is it trivial? Well, because he'd gotten so used to it. It's what Dad did, and Grandpa did it, and everybody else does it. It's a trivial thing because he got used to it. See, people try and pass this off as tolerance or acceptance. And that's not really what this is. See, people try and say that this is tolerance or acceptance as though it's a good thing. But see, we're all intolerant of quite a bit. No one's going to tolerate murder. No one's going to tolerate cannibalism. But in certain societies, that act is not only tolerated, it's glorified. And is that society less valid? Is our society intolerant for not tolerating that kind of thing? Well, no, of course we're not. We don't tolerate that kind of thing because it's harmful to people. It hurts other people. That's why and people say, people talk to us as though we're the intolerant ones because we have these everybody has moral standards, everybody's intolerant of something, and it's hypocritical of them to call us intolerant of things. See, people get used to these tolerances that are built into our society. They understand them and they accept them into their lives. I read a very funny statistic that kind of makes light of this. It is 4 times more likely for you to die in a car crash while driving to the gas station to buy a lottery ticket than you are to win the lottery. See, but nobody worries about that when they get into a car to drive to the gas station to buy the lottery ticket, right? Why doesn't anybody worry about that? Well, because we've gotten used to it. We've accepted it into our lives, and that statistic, we laugh at it now because it doesn't shock us because we've gotten used to it. But see, when something else happens, like the DC sniper, which was a tragedy some years ago, people started running in zigzags, even though it was far more likely that they die in a car crash or that a car runs into them while they're on the sidewalk than the sniper shooting them, because, in the same amount of time that the sniper shot 4 people, 40,000 people died in car crashes. But we got used to that particular danger. Well, the same thing happens to us with evil. We get used to a certain kind of evil. And let me just say some things that people have gotten used to that I bet you can all name some of them, can't you? What have we gotten used to that's evil that would have shocked people years ago? Pornography, abortion, cursing in movies, cursing on TV, sex on TV, homosexuality on TV. These are all things that we are slowly getting used to. See the problem? That's a danger. Because, see, once we get used to these things, and the best way to do this, of course, is to make it funny. And we laugh at things now that would have freaked out people 50, 20 years ago. People pass this kind of stuff off as tolerance. We need to be acceptant of other people's lives. That isn't the case. It isn't the case now, it wasn't the case then, and it won't ever be the case. The next thing we're going to be looking at is evil's effects. See, all of these things, all of the things that evil slowly emerges with, they're all setting us up. They're designed by Satan to soften the blow of evil's effects. Because if we saw them outright, we'd be shocked and abhorred. So the question is, what is Baal worship? Verse 31 states that he took as his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and he went and served Baal and worshipped him. And it mentions this as a particular thing that he did that was wrong. And was marrying this woman, apparently God didn't really like her. What was wrong with this? What's so bad about Baal worship? And why does this anger the Lord more than any of those who came before him? What's so bad about Baal worship? What is it? Well, in Mesopotamia, in ancient Mesopotamia, Baal simply means Lord. So you hear the word Baal thrown around in the Bible quite a bit. And the Baals, the lords that these people are serving. However, it specifies in verse 31, doesn't it? It says that he married Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, the king of the Sidonians, and he served Baal and worshipped him. See, the Sidonians worshipped a particular Baal named Melkart. And that particular lord, that particular god, Melkart, see, the main feature of his worship was child sacrifice, human sacrifice. You can imagine how the Lord wasn't too happy about that. See, what they would do, the altar of Baal, and that's the other thing that he says, he set up an altar for Baal in the temple of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And the horrible thing about this is the altar of Baal looks like this. This is what most people believe the altar of Baal to look like. The Mesopotamians who worship Baal are all dead now. But this is what people believe that the altar of Baal looked like. This is Baal, the bull-headed god. He was bull-headed in more than one way.